Hello everybody, I am not Magical Jill, I am her husband Jay, but you are on our channel. And we're going to be talking today about something for a couple minutes for Fullmetal Alchemist fans that I think is actually really cool. And that's whether you're into this genre that we're going to be talking about or not. I think this is a great way to show interest in Fullmetal Alchemist. At the end of the day, even though we as fans and people who love stuff, we can write fan fiction, right? We can come up with theories, we can talk online. At the end of the day, when it comes down to it, if you ever want to see more of something, the unfortunate truth is that more than these things need to happen. That thing actually needs some kind of financial support. Now, with Fullmetal Alchemist, it is coming back in sort of a huge crossover that has to do with several other different anime, basically huge anime and manga properties, including things like Demon Slayer. And that is that it is coming to this thing called Union Arena. Now, if you don't know what that is, I'm going to talk about it for a couple of minutes. But the reason I think this is so cool is because Fullmetal Alchemist got some complete stories. There were some missteps, like I wish that they did a little more with 2003. Obviously, they cut some corners at the end there to get to Brotherhood. You know, there are some video games that never got translated. But a lot of what Fullmetal Alchemist has had in recent years for life in any way is not video games, it's not any kind of manga or stories, it's not really any anime. It's a couple of okay live action adaptations and a bunch of mobile game cash-in collaborations, which I made a video about previously. So this Union Arena is a trading card game, and before you think, oh, I'm not even interested in trading card games, there's actually a little bit more to it than that. We're going to talk about this for a couple minutes today. If you enjoyed the video, you want to leave a like, subscribe, we do appreciate that. I did want to say that speaking of merch, we are affiliates of Amazon, which means that in the description and the pinned comment below, there will be a link to a list of things on Amazon about Fullmetal Alchemist, like products, merch, stuff like that. If you do purchase something there, we do get a commission, but I tried to actually take about an hour or two, gather a bunch of cool FMA stuff, so hopefully you like that. And I did have a question of the day for you, which is, if Fullmetal Alchemist was to ever return in a major way, it could be video games, it could be some kind of spin-off in that world with a different character, whatever it is, what would you want to see? For me, there's two major things. For one, I would love to see the aftermath of Conqueror of Shambhala, but I don't expect that at this point because that's the 2003 canon. Or I would love to see a video game. Could follow Ed and Al, or it could follow totally different characters in this world, because this is a very interesting world to me. Now, Union Arena TCG is a trading card game where you can actually collect different cards, and you can either store them, you can keep them for display, do things like books, stuff like that. I do that with a lot of old cards, or you can play an actual trading card game with them. Now, this is essentially billed as like a universe where anything can cross over with anything. So there's things like Demon Slayer, there's going to be things like Fullmetal Alchemist. There's a lot of different products and ways that you can play the game. And I think it's really cool to even see things like Attack on Titan, Jujutsu Kaisen, Bleach, Black Clover, Sword Art Online. A lot of the things, even One Punch Man actually, a lot of the things that you see here, obviously they're not something like Dragon Ball, which has its own card game, but they are a lot of big major players in the space of anime and manga over the years. And it's a world where essentially they can come together and cross over. I really like stuff like this, and you don't see it very often. A lot of the Fullmetal Alchemist crossovers over the years have been very uninspired mobile crossovers. Some have been cool, but actually most of them have just been okay, and most of them are now delisted. Either the games are shut down, or the event is gone, or, on the other hand, there are things like the Fullmetal Alchemist mobile game, which promised to go back into that world, dive into it with new stories as well, and then Square Enix ended up shutting it down because at the end of the day, as much as I love Square Enix's art and a lot of things made from them, they are very money hungry. Like, they are very penny pinchy when it comes to this kind of stuff. So with Fullmetal Alchemist coming to this game, at least for starters, there's going to be booster packs coming July 25th of 2025, and there is also going to be a starter deck. With starter decks, in case you don't know about trading card games, essentially this is something that you can get. It's a 50 card deck. You can play with it right out of the box. Now, is it going to be amazing? I personally don't know the balancing of Union Arena. It's something I've just kind of started paying attention to since I saw the Fullmetal Alchemist announcement, which I thought was fun. I've also seen people say that they want things like Sailor Moon, other major anime and manga that don't necessarily have a card game to cross over with this. And because of that, I think one, it's cool to support a game like this where they are interested in making a game where different properties interact with each other in a creative way. But two, I also think this is incredibly affordable. The actual starting deck is only $12. So $12 USD, $11.99 USD. That's actually very, very cheap for a card game, especially when I'm looking at things like the Final Fantasy decks that are coming out for Magic the Gathering. And those are things like, I think some of the decks were $70. It's insanity. It's crazy to me. So here you have something that's basically a seventh of that price for Fullmetal Alchemist. And then these trading card packs come with 12 cards per pack and they're $5, which I'm not going to say is cheap, but it's definitely not expensive compared to a lot of other card games. Now, the reasons that I think this are important are what I said before with things like the crossovers, but also at the end of the day, I think that if Fullmetal Alchemist is ever going to come back, I don't mean an unnecessary continuation where it's like, Arakawa, please write more about what happened. What was the drama of Ed and Al building a house? Things like that. I don't need something stupid, okay? We don't need to drag out a very complete masterpiece of a story. What I mean is things like side stories, things like video games, things like that, or even like the movies. If you ever want to see anything from this world again, of any kind, the only way to really see that is to support it. And that's why I think this is such a cool and interesting thing. It's why I wanted to talk about it for a few minutes, because I know that to a lot of people who probably didn't even watch this far, it's just, oh, okay, well, they're coming to a card game, big whoop. And they're going to pass that over, they're going to not care. And then really, unfortunately, what ends up happening is all that does is send a message to Square Enix. All that does is send a message to games like Union Arena that people aren't interested in things like Fullmetal Alchemist. It sucks. I don't like that that's the way capitalism works, but it is the way that capitalism works. And that's coming from one of the guys who was out there buying the English video games, buying the actual international releases of the Fullmetal Alchemist video games on things like PS2. I've seen what happens when people don't support a creation like FMA in some of these ways. What ends up happening then is we get 2 more PS2 games, multiple Wii games, and more that never come to the States, never come to Europe, never go anywhere outside of Japan, because the Japanese creators see this as, oh, well, I guess this only applies to Japan. And then people who are responsible for international things like marketing, budgets, things like releases, distribution, etc., they look at it and they say, well, our money is better spent on something that is actually applicable outside of Japan. Reggie, go and print another $80 set of Final Fantasy cards from Square Enix for Magic the Gathering. Or, oh, well, we could pass over that video game because, no one's going to play a Full Metal game. They'll just play this. Last time we released Full Metal, there was no interest in the brand. That's always the corporate speak that they go with. That's why I think this kind of thing is cool. That's why I will be supporting it, because when there are brands like Sailor Moon, where I feel like the stories were not actually fully delved into, it was not a masterpiece as much as I love it, and it's milked to death for merch, I look at merch with a bit of a side eye, like, really? Do we need more of this? But with something like Full Metal, where it's these pretty complete stories, but with room for more stuff, especially since none of it ever actually left Japan in a lot of cases, that's where I see merch like this, and I think, this is a cool idea, this is something worth supporting, this is something I will give my money to. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. We do appreciate that. There are going to be different ways to support this channel in the description and pinned comment. One of them, like I said, is that Amazon affiliates list where you can buy different Fullmetal Alchemist merch. We do get a commission on that. We do have other channels down there as well, the question of the day, and we have our own store, which I think is really, really great that my wife makes stuff on, cosmobunny.shop. Now, this is from different things like pamphlets, comic books, manga, magazines, anything under the sun. What we do is we take those things, they're damaged, they're not able to be sold, they're gonna end up in landfills. We take them, we preserve some of that paper, we preserve some of that art, we turn it into new art, coasters, keychains, trays, and more made out of resin for your home. Then what we do is we actually make sure that the rest of this stuff, whether it be pieces we don't use or pieces that just are not good, like they're just damaged beyond belief, we make sure that those actually end up in the recycling when it comes to this paper, not in landfills. And there's a big distinction there, which I think is unfortunate, that a lot of this stuff is just going to end up in the ocean or buried underground. We want to make something new out of this for your home that is going to last quite a while for you, and then we want to recycle the rest. So we hope you'll check that out. A lot of creativity, and there actually probably will be some stuff inspired by the topic of today's video as well, because we have been finding some of that too. So check it out on the website. I think you'll like it. Code SAILOR for 10% off your first purchase. Have a fantastic day. We appreciate you so much, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.